Good afternoon and welcome to this special sitting of the National Assembly. This is a sitting that has been sanctioned by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Speaker Justin Muturi, and it comes in the wake of a communication by the President that gave proposals or forwarded proposals to the National Assembly to consider some amendments to the Finance Bill 2018 that was passed by this very House a couple of weeks ago. Today, the Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2017, is in the order of business. It is among the businesses that the communication which was issued by the Speaker did indicate that will be happening. And that particular bill is a bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the Urban Areas and Cities Act of 2011 and for connected purposes. Also in the order of business this afternoon is the Warehouse Receipt System Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017. This particular bill is for an Act of Parliament to provide a legal framework for the development and regulation of a warehouse receipt system for agricultural commodities, the establishment of the Warehouse Receipt System Council, and for connected purposes. The other business which is in the order this afternoon is the Health Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2018, and this particular bill as well is set for debate for the second reading. The Health Law Amendment Bill 2018 seeks to make various wide-ranging amendments to various health-related statutes on matters relating to health policy. The bill contains proposed amendments to some statutes, among them the Radiation Protection Act, the Medical Practitioners and Dentist Act, the Nurses Act, the Kenya Medical Training College Act, the Nutritionists and Dietitians Act, as well as the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority Act of 2013, where it seeks to amend that particular act on composition of the authority to clarify on the mode of appointment of the chairperson and provide for the requirements as a member of the authority. It further seeks to provide for the corporation secretary for the authority as well. The Health Law Amendment Bill also seeks to amend the Counsellors and Psychologists Act of 2014 and the Physiotherapists Act of 2014, as well as the Health Records and Information Managers Act of 2016, number 15 of 2016, and then finally the Clinical Officers Training, Registration and Licensing Act of 2017, where it proposes to amend that particular act to ensure compliance with Mwongozo and to introduce new provisions to streamline the issue of licensing of clinical officers in private practice. That is among the businesses that we expect to be transacted in the House this afternoon. Also in the order of business this afternoon is the County Government Amendment Bill, number 2 Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2017, where it is a bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the County Government Act to provide for the procedure for the disposal of a report of a commission of inquiry established under Article 192, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and to provide for the termination of a suspension of a county government under Article 192, subsection 4 of the Constitution, and for connected purposes. This is also the business that this House will be engaging in this afternoon. Just a quick reminder, this is a special sitting, and among the businesses that we do expect is a communication from the chair, where we do expect that the President's memoranda to the House will be read by the Speaker this afternoon. The National Assembly is on recess, and this special sitting, we do expect it to take place today and on Thursday morning, as well as the afternoon sitting, where, according to the tentative business for those particular two sittings, will be the Committee of the Whole House will be debating and considering the President's reservations to the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2018, as well as the motion on the consideration of the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the supplementary estimates for the financial year 2018-2019. Among the proposals which were made by the President is the reduction of the tax from 16% to 8%, which is meant to significantly reduce the amount Kenyans will be paying when it comes to the purchase of petroleum products. On your screen is the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi. This broadcast is brought to you by KBC in conjunction with PBU.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants who have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests are committed to our charge. Amen. Order members, I find that we correct, and therefore we can commence. We can commence business of the House.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
The member who is making her way, please. Honourable members, I've combined order number 2 and 3 because they are interrelated. Honourable members, this message is from the President, being number 14 of 2018, and is titled Referral by His Excellency the President of the Finance Bill 2018. Honourable members who are, please, just walk in very quickly. Honourable members, standing order number 29, subsection 1, states that, and I quote, whenever during a session the House stands adjourned, whether or not a day has been appointed for the next meeting, the Speaker may, on the request of the Leader of the Majority Party or the Leader of the Minority Party, appoint a day for a special sitting of the House. Close the quote. In this regard, I received and acceded to a request from the Leader of the Majority Party to hold special sittings pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 29, subsections 2 and 3 of the National Assembly by Gazette Notice number 9380, which was published in the Kenya Gazette of 13 September 2018. I gave notice of this special sitting and that of Thursday, 20th September 2018, to the members of the National Assembly. In addition, I also published notices in the local dailies notifying members of the said sittings and the business to be transacted. Accordingly, honourable members, this special sitting is properly convened. Honourable members, you may recall that on August 30th, 2018, the National Assembly passed the Finance Bill 2018. Thereafter, the bill was presented for assent to His Excellency the President in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and our standing orders. However, His Excellency the President, by way of a memorandum, has since referred the bill back to the National Assembly for reconsideration pursuant to the provisions of Article 115, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution. His Excellency the President has expressed reservations on A, Clause 2 of the bill on the definition of the term winnings for purposes of taxation, B, Clause 18 of the bill on deferral of the commencement date for the value-added tax on petroleum products, C, Clause 31 of the bill on excess duty proposed to be levied on sugar confectionery and fees charged for money transfer services, D, amendment to the Betting, Lotteries and Gaming Act on the rates of taxation for betting, gaming, lotteries, and prize competitions, E, Clause 68 of the original bill on the proposed contributory scheme to National Housing Development Fund to enable access to affordable housing, F, amendments to Part 7 of the bill relating to the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act on the adulteration levy to be charged on kerosene imported to the country for home use, and G, recommendation for consequential amendments to the Appropriations Act 2018 required to bridge the financing gap in accordance with Section 40, subsection 5 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. Now, members, I will resume my seat to allow those members to make their way in. Members making their way in, please do so quickly. Those members who are making your way in, please do so quickly. Members, you can register your presence anytime later. That should not take too much of your time. Consequently, the President recommends amendments to the said clauses and the bill. Honourable members, you may recall that Section 41 of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order number 245 provide that the finance bill shall be considered and approved not later than 90 days after the passage of the Appropriations Bill. The Appropriations Bill 2018 having been passed on June 26, 2018, that period expires before the ordinary resumption of the House on October 2nd, 2018, thereby necessitating the special sittings that you have been asked to attend this week. Now, members, before I commit the memorandum to the relevant committee for consideration and reporting to the House, I wish to inform the House that my office is in receipt of a letter from the member for Mathare constituency, the Honorable Anthony Tom Oluoch, touching on the memorandum. In his letter, the Honorable Oluoch raises 3 matters on which he seeks direction before consideration of the memorandum. These are: 1, whether where Parliament cannot raise the 2/3 threshold required under Article 155, Clause 4, Paragraph A of the Constitution, read together with Standing Order number 62 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, the effect of the failure results into the President's reservations becoming law, which in effect makes the President a legislator, contrary to the doctrine of separation of powers. 2, whether the reservations of the President, which have not been subjected to public participation in terms of Standing Order number 127, can stand the test of law. And 3, whether the reservations of the President touching on specific parts of the finance bill and not the entire bill are constitutional. Honourable members, you will recall that I did give guidance on a similar query raised in the last Parliament in a communication delivered on July 28, 2015, concerning consideration of presidential memoranda and amendments thereto. In that instance, the then member for Arienda, the Honorable Nicholas Gumbo, and sought guidance from the Speaker on the following matters relating to presidential referral of bills to Parliament for reconsideration. He had sought, first, whether in expressing his reservations and sending a bill back to Parliament for reconsideration upon refusal to attend, under Article 115 of the Constitution, the President can make specific proposals for amendment to the particular bill. 2, whether the specific proposals for amendment made by the President should go through the entire lawmaking process of consideration by the relevant committee, including pre-publication scrutiny, public hearings, first, second, and third readings. 3, whether accepting of the text proposed by the President and which has not been subjected to the ordinary lawmaking process as outlined in B above should require a 2/3 majority. And finally, whether the House would be properly constituted if at the time of putting the question on the President's reservations or recommendations, there are less than 2/3 of all the members present in the House. Honourable members, the summary of my communication then, which is now substantively codified in our Standing Order number 154, was as follows. 1, that in submitting his reservations on a bill to the House, the President is not prohibited from including his preferred text of the particular clause, section, subsection, or paragraph of the bill. 2, that just like amendments to bills, the text proposed by the President on a bill did not be subjected to other stages subjected to a bill upon publication, that is, publication, first reading, second reading, and third reading. 3, that any committee or member of the House is free to propose further amendments to the presidential recommendations, so long as such amendments have the effect of fully accommodating the President's reservations. The voting threshold for the passage of such amendment, or indeed the proposal made by the President, is a simple majority as contemplated in Article 122, Clause 1 of the Constitution. Any other proposed amendment that does not fully accommodate the reservations, or indeed a total override of the President's reservations, including his proposed text, would attract the 2/3 requirement. 4, that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order Number 1, Clause 2, the determination of whether a proposed amendment by a member or a committee to the President's reservations would have the effect of fully accommodating those reservations shall be made by the Speaker on a case-by-case basis. And finally, that the absence of at least 2/3 majority at the time of putting the question does not in any way imply that the House is improperly constituted. Once again, members, and allow the members come to make their way in. Make your way in. Make your way in. You can register your presence later. Members making your way in, like Honorable Wanga. The Honorable Wanga, make your way in quickly. I've just allowed you time to come in. And those like a member of Gatundu South who are shaking hands, please do it later. Honourable members, we proceed. In that particular communication, I did interrogate at length the issues raised by the Honourable Oluoch with regard to the participation of the President in lawmaking as allowed by Article 115 of the Constitution. In answer to the first issue raised by the Honourable Oluoch, members will note that the 2/3 voting threshold only becomes applicable to the House if it intends to negate or amend the proposed text in respect of the reservations made on the finance bill in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. It is not a requirement that affects the quorum of the House at the commencement or consideration of the reservations. In terms of the procedure to be adopted, in considering the reservations, the procedures of the House are quite clear. As members are aware, all questions for decision in the House are put in the positive. That is to say, with regard to the President's reservation, the question to be put in the Committee of the Whole House will, for example, be as follows, and I quote, that clause dash of the bill be amended as proposed in the reservations by His Excellency the President, close the quotes. At that point, the provisions of Article 122, Clause 1 of the Constitution requiring a simple majority of members on a vote shall apply. And I put emphasis on the one's simple majority. In terms of procedure, this is exercised by way of collection of votes of ayes and nays, as provided for in our Standing Order Number 69 regarding voting in the House. The chairperson of the Committee of the Whole House will thereupon announce the result of the voice votes. It is expected that any member intending to reject, that is to totally oppose, the proposed text of the reservation, or a member intending to amend the clause in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations, would rise and cause a division as contemplated in Standing Order Number 72, subsection 1, paragraph B, read together with Standing Order Number 72 on electronic voting. If 30 or more members rise to claim a division, the chairperson shall forthwith order that the division bell be rung as usual. If after 10 minutes or such further period as the chair may direct, there are 233 members in the House, being 2/3 of all the members of the National Assembly, the House shall proceed to an electronic vote in order to vote and confirm the claim to negate the recommended text of the reservations or amend the clause in question in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. Where there are less than 233 members in the House, despite the ringing of the division bell, the members claiming a division will have failed to garner the numbers required under Article 115, Clause 4, Paragraph A of the Constitution, and therefore uphold the earlier decision made by way of a voice vote. Honourable members, indeed, even our courts have made pronouncements on the questions raised with regard to the participation of the President in the lawmaking process. This was the case with regard to the passage, referral, and assent of the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Act of 2013, the Public Audit Act of 2015, and the Finance Act of 2017, where the courts in separate suits affirmed the constitutional role of the President as outlined in Article 115 of the Constitution vis-à-vis the role of the House in the consideration of the President's reservations. Honourable members, for the benefit of the House, I will cite some of these cases. With regard to the enactment of the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Act 2013, it was argued in court that the manner in which the bill was referred back to the National Assembly with recommendations on various clauses amounted to the President assigning himself a legislative role, that role which does not contemplated or provided for in the Constitution, in violation of the doctrine of separation of powers. It was further contended that the referral of the bill to the National Assembly with explicit reservations and suggested alternative clauses and the acceptance of the recommendations by the National Assembly amounted to a usurpation of the legislative authority and a surrender of constitutionally vested power by the National Assembly. And this you'll find in the Nairobi High Court Constitutional Petition number 30 of 2014, which was consolidated with petition number 31 of 2014 and Judicial Review Miscellaneous Application number 30 of 2014. In a decision rendered by a three-judge bench, the court ruled that the petitioners had assigned a narrow meaning to the term reservations that was not in accord with the Constitution. It was the court's finding that it does not expect the President to simply state, and I quote, "I have reservations about this bill," close the quotes. Since without more information in the memorandum, there would be nothing for the legislature to consider, accommodate, or reject. This led to the determination that the President properly exercised his constitutional mandate as is vested in his office under Article 115 of the Constitution. Further, honourable members, with regard to the enactment of the Public Audit Act 2015, the court was faced with the question of whether the President actively participated in the legislative process in the manner he noted his reservations, and whether that violated the lawmaking process. And in answer, the court agreed with the decision of the three-judge bench in the Kika case, of 2013, noting that it was unable to find fault with the procedure adopted by the President in making his reservations, which included recommended text that both houses passed when returning it to Parliament. Similarly, honourable members, the court was recently invited to declare that the President, as having overstepped his mandate under Article 115 of the Constitution by referring back the Finance Bill 2017 with reservations, including a recommendation on the reduction of the rate of taxation applicable to betting, lotteries, and gaming activities, as proposed by the House in its amendment to the Betting, Lotteries, and Gaming Act. In affirming the role of the President in the lawmaking process, the court categorically stated, and I quote, "The constitutional power of the President to state what is wrong with the bill can be done without making recommendations or proposals to Parliament to avoid the danger of being perceived to be descending to the legislative arena, which is a function of Parliament. However, to the extent that members of Parliament have the constitutional safeguard and freedom of rejecting the recommendations, I find that it would be unsafe to conclude that they were influenced by the President's proposal," close the quotes. That is in the case of Nairobi High Court, Constitutional Petition number 553 of 2017. Honourable members, from the precedents set by this House and affirmed by the view taken by courts, it is therefore apparent that the claim by the member for Mathare constituency and his apprehension that the consideration of the President's reservation is, in effect, an unconstitutional fait accompli, which leaves them with no option, is misplaced. Indeed, Article 115 of the Constitution clearly allows the President to participate in the lawmaking process through suggestions made to this House in his reservations. The reservations by the President will be presented as a proposal to the House for agreement, and the House may vote to either include it in the bill, negative it, or amend it, subject to the applicable voting thresholds prescribed under Article 115 of the Constitution. The obligation to raise the voting threshold is left to those wishing to negative the proposed text or amend the text in a manner that does not fully accommodate the President's reservations. With regard to the implication of this higher voting threshold requirement on the legislative authority of Parliament, allow me to quote the findings of the learned judge of the High Court in the case of the Public Audit Act 2015. Quote, the President's reservations were expressed in his memorandum to Parliament in the form of several recommendations and suggestions that Parliament eventually approved and passed without amendments. The drafters of our Constitution must have intended that the President's reservations should almost prevail when they imposed a higher threshold of 2/3 of members in order to reject or amend the reservations, close the quotes. And that was in the High Court petition, Constitutional Petition number 388 of 2016. Honourable members, the second issue raised by the Honourable Luoch relates to the issue of public participation on the President's reservations. On this question, I will reiterate my ruling delivered on July 28, 2015, on the reservations not being subjected to the normal bill procedure under the standing orders, since the President is availing himself to an opportunity similar to that enjoyed by members of this House when proposing amendments during the committee stage. Committee stage amendments are only considered during that stage, and are not subjected to other processes that a bill goes through prior to that stage. As a matter of fact, in the case of the Finance Act 2017, the learned judge of the High Court did find that, and I quote, on the alleged non-compliance with the standing orders, the earlier communication from the Speaker of the National Assembly is instructive. It will suffice to state that just like amendments to bills, the text proposed by the President on a bill need not be subjected to other stages subjected to a bill upon publication, that is, publication, first reading, second reading, and third reading. Consequently, I find that there was no breach of the procedural requirements, and that is found in the High Court Constitutional Petition number 353 of 2017. In any event, honourable members, a perusal of the reservations and the various recommendations contained in the memorandum does not reveal any matter not covered either under the bill as published or covered in the totality of the amendments initially proposed on August 29th and 30th, 2018, in the Committee of the Whole House by the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, the minority party whip, or indeed the other members who had amendments in their order paper during those particular sittings. Indeed, these amendments were said to be a product of public participation. Members, once again, let me allow the members to make their way in. Quickly, please. Please take seats, take seats. Take seats quickly, since in any event you are coming late. Take seats. Take seats. Take seats, please. In honor members in the House, you can take your seat and shake hands later. I proceed, honor members. We will note that the reservations relating to the Betting, Lotteries, and Gaming Act with regard to definitions and applicable rates of tax related to an act that the House sought to amend through the Finance Bill 2018. Further, honor members, the reservations with regard to the value-added tax on petroleum products related to an amendment made to by this House to the bill moved by the Minority Party Whip, the Honorable Junaid Mohammed. The other reservations with regard to the amendments to the Excise Duty Act and the Employment Act on the proposed contributions to the National Housing Development Fund relate to amendments made by this House to provisions that were originally in the bill. Indeed, the reservation and recommendation on the National Housing Fund is nearly word-for-word similar to the amendment proposed by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and the leader of the majority party during the committee stage of the bill, which was said to have been initiated as a result of public participation. The query with regard to the need for public participation is therefore disingenuous and unnecessary. Honourable members, the Honourable Oluoch raised a third issue of whether the President's reservation with regard to the Finance Bill 2018 amounts to line item veto, and if it does, whether the same is constitutional. In parliamentary parlance, a veto is a constitutional right to reject a decision or proposal made by a lawmaking body. A line item veto, on the other hand, is a rejection of a specific portion of a legislation passed by the legislature. In classical use, a president exercises a right to reject a legislation forwarded for assent in totality. In the event a legislature proposes to proceed and pass the legislation without reference to the president's objections, it would ordinarily require a supermajority to do so. This is the case in the United States of America, as dictated by its constitution, where the president is only mandated to reject a bill and refer it back with a list of objections. The Congress thereafter can only pass the bill by a supermajority in both houses. The wording of their Section 7 of Article 1 of their Constitution on the consideration, passage, and assent of legislation only contemplates the classic use of a veto. Hence, the President is not at liberty to reject portions of a legislation passed by Congress. This practice is well explained by William McKay and Charles Johnson in their book titled Parliament and Congress, Representation and Scrutiny in the 21st Century. Indeed, far from the claim by the member for Mathare, the practice in Kenya is, however, quite different, as evidenced by Article 115 of the Constitution. And for those who mind the history of this article, Section 46 of the old Constitution of this country would be relevant. Both provisions do allow a president to refer a bill back to the legislature with reservations. Similarly, both provisions allow the legislature to amend a bill to accommodate the reservations of the president, therefore leading to the conclusion that a president may refer a bill back with reservation or no or specific clauses of a bill. The only departure between the two provisions, as I noted in the communication delivered on July 28, 2015, was that whereas Section 46 of the repealed Constitution contained express provisions empowering the President to return a bill back to the National Assembly by submitting a memorandum to the Speaker, indicating the specific provisions of the bill which, in his opinion, should be reconsidered by the National Assembly, including his recommendation for amendments, Article 115 of our current Constitution omits this express requirement for submission of recommendations. In that communication, I did indeed direct that despite the lack of an express provision in Article 115 requiring the President to submit his recommendations on a bill, the Constitution does not prohibit this practice either. In line with the cardinal principle of interpretation of law that whatever is not prohibited by the Constitution or any law is presumed to be allowed. Honourable members, The President is therefore within his constitutional right to present a memorandum touching on specific clauses of the Finance Bill 2018. Indeed, Article 115 gives the House an option to either amending the bill to agree with the President or disregarding the President's wishes by raising a 2/3 majority. Honourable members, the memorandum from the President concludes by requesting the House to consider amendments to the Appropriations Act 2018 in light of the passage of the proposals in the Finance Bill 2018, which create a financing gap. This does not constitute a new proposal for introduction into the Finance Bill 2018. As members are fully aware, Section 40, subsection 5 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 requires the House, in adopting the Finance Bill, to ensure that the revenue-raising measures passed are consistent with the approved fiscal framework and the Division of Revenue Act, including consideration of the impact of proposed changes on the composition of the tax revenue, among other principles. The President notes that in the event the House agrees with the measures outlined in the memorandum, the financing gap will remain in the region of 55 billion Kenya shillings. Consequently, the House shall have to amend the Appropriations Act 2018 as required by law to eliminate this gap, or such other amount as may result from any amendment made to the Finance Bill 2018. That process will be referred to the Budget and Appropriations Committee as contemplated by the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and our standing orders. As I conclude, honourable members, I thank the member for Mathare constituency for bringing forth these issues that have necessitated me to consolidate the message from the President with this communication as a guide to the House. The President's memorandum stands now committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for consideration. The committee should table its report in the morning of Thursday, 20th September 2018. I wish to reiterate to the House that the Senate committee that only the clauses of the bill that have reservations ought to be considered. The committee may, subject to the new Standing Order 195 relating to attendance by non-members of select committees, admit the member for Mathare to participate and/or present any views he has on the memorandum, together with any other member or other persons that may show interest in the process. I also direct the clerk to now circulate the memorandum from His Excellency the President to all members so that you can familiarize yourselves with its contents. The clerk is further directed to avail this communication to members together with my communication of 28th July 2015 regarding consideration and scope of presidential reservations. Indeed, honourable members, my many rulings on these matters have been codified into a small book. I thank you, honourable members. Member Voyata, we are not yet through. Member Voyata, if you could just, you just came in a while ago. You got thirsty so fast. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 41, I wish to report to the House that I have received a message from the Senate regarding its decision on the approval of a member for appointment to the Parliamentary Service Commission. Honourable members, the message reads in part, and I quote, "In accordance with the provisions of Article 127, Clause 2, Paragraph D of the Constitution, by a resolution passed on Thursday, September 13, 2018, the Senate also approved the appointment of the Honorable Samuel Kiprono Chepkonga as a member of the Parliamentary Service Commission. Honourable members, you will recall that this House, by a resolution passed on Thursday, August 2, 2018, the National Assembly approved the said member for appointment to the Parliamentary Service Commission. This therefore concludes the bicameral approval of the appointment process and paves the way for the Commissioner to take oath of office as required under Article 74 of the Constitution before he commences his duties. And the Honorable Chepkonga is therefore invited, if he is available, to appear before the chairperson of the Commission anytime from tomorrow morning. I thank you now, members. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, September 18, 2018. 1. 2018-2019 Supplementary Estimate 1, Program-Based Budget of the National Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, and 2, Statement of the Financial Year 2018-2019 Supplementary Estimate number 1 by the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Yes, member for Kikuyu, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Really not a point of order, Speaker, but a point of information, just to appeal to members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in view of the paper just laid by the Leader of Majority on the supplementary appropriations estimates, that we have a meeting tomorrow morning and the whole day, and I also wish to take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to ask all chairs of committees to be able to join us tomorrow. We will make it known through the liaison committee, the venue of the meeting, so that we are able to deliberate on the estimates and be able to have a report ready by Thursday morning. Of course, all chairs of committees except the 2 oversight committees and special funds committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The chair of Budget and Appropriations Committee jumped the gun, but he's quite in order. The papers laid by the Leader of Majority Party stand committed, as I indicated in my communication to the Budget and Appropriations Committee, for appropriate consideration. And as you invite chairs of other committees to your meeting, I think I would also want to direct members of the Parliamentary Service Committee and the clerks of the Houses of Parliament, more particularly the chair of the Finance Committee of the Commission, the Honorable Kainan, to also appear before your committee. The Honorable Kainan is the chair of the Finance Committee of the Parliamentary Service Commission. So, because I'm sure the meeting may have a few issues that you may wish to have considered or looked into. Yeah, the Honorable Kainan is present. Yes, and he can carry with him as many other commissioners as possible. It's only the chairperson who will not be present.
We will do that, Chairman, and our position is already known. Nothing will be touched on the PSC proposals contained.
No, the Honorable Kainan has made it. Honorable Ishongwa.
Honorable Speaker, I think in your magnanimity you have indicated that the chair of the Finance Committee of the Parliamentary Service Commission will appear together with other commissioners before the committee. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm that indeed a letter should be on its way, inviting members of the Parliamentary Service Commission and members of the Judicial Service Commission into the meeting tomorrow morning. However, Mr. Speaker, when you gave the Honorable Kenan that opportunity, he has said something that is very telling, that Chair, when I said all chairs, it meant even the chair of the CDF committee is also invited. That is why we invited all chairs of committees, except the oversight committees. Honorable Chair, what I had a problem, Mr. Speaker, with is the assertion by Honorable Kenan, who purports to be now writing the report on behalf of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, indicating that nothing will be touched.
Honorable Ijongwa, you are now out of order because we are discussing nothing. Honorable members, I don't know who is the vice chair of the CDF committee. Yes, as Honorable Omar, I know the chair is indisposed and out of the country. Honorable Wahungu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was raising the matter on the chair of the CDF, and like enough the chairman had raised. Because looking at that memoranda, you find that CDF is under threat. So it's important that the chair of CDF should be there, and even any other friend of the committee should also be there to appear before the budget committee so that we can consider it accordingly and act appropriately. I thank you.
No, no, members, there is the invitation is from the chair of budget committee. I see the member for Homa Bay Town.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for reconvening the House during recess. Mr. Speaker, the matters that we are going to transact between today and on Thursday would be matters of grave national importance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, would I be right to seek your indulgence as the chair to reorder the order paper so that we can deal with the matter of VAT straight away? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Which order paper? Which order paper?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is only one circulated to us relating to this special sitting and it includes the matters gazetted for today and Thursday. I was just requesting, Mr. Speaker, that because the main issue as to why the people we represent believe we are here concerns VAT, and it is a matter over which I know there is a conscious decision by members. It's a matter we can vote straight away so that we deal with the other matters. I beg you, Mr. Speaker.
You know, honor members, and like all of you, the Constitution made it very clear that the Speaker shall have no vote. So, honor members, the memorandum has been referred to the relevant committee of the House, namely Finance and National Planning, who will then bring a report. And if we took the route that the Honorable Kaluma is suggesting, we will be obviously in a breach of our standing orders and other traditions. So, Honorable Kaluma, I can see you are anxious to dispose of that matter. But let's wait for the time, which is Thursday morning. Yes. I can see the member for South Imenti.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I listened to the Chair and Budget Committee severally excluding the three important committees of this House, Honorable Speaker, especially in the Andivice, especially in the appropriations budget-making process. Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee, Public Investments Committee, and the Special Funds Committee, we are the watchdog. I know who the thieves are in this country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it is important even when he is doing his work to really consult these important committees, because you know where resources are wasted, where resources are plundered, who steal the public resources. Therefore, I think the chairman budget committee should be a friend of these three watchdog committees, and he should not see these committees as enemies of this house or of the process that is done in this house, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, it is important, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, my good friend, not to be intimidated by these three committees, because like now, if you tell me where to cut, in special funds, Mr. Speaker, we have realized that all the funds that we have in the ministries, all these funds go to waste. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, if you ask me today where we can cut in budget and where we can get money to fill the budget hole, I can tell you even at 1 o'clock when I'm asleep, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Chairman should really be a friend of our committees, because we can really make his work easier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can see my colleagues also agitated by his statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader Majority.
Speaker, this house now is close to over a year. And I want to confirm that this funds committee, the Public Accounts Committee, the Public Investment, and the Special Funds are yet to table a report here. And based on that report, then we can use it as a record of the House to where to cut expenditure and where there's wastage. And this, I think, Mr. Speaker, is a wake-up call. Honorable Wandai is doing a very good work, and Honorable Nasir, and Honorable Kathuri. But you know, interrogating people in room 7 and 9 is not the end of the business. What is the end of the business is when a report is tabled and is approved, and then other agencies can use to bring those people to book. Mr. Speaker, the second thing, you heard Honorable Chris Wamalwa saying CDF is in the memoranda. Speaker, this is a house of facts. Speaker, he said, I can even go to the answer. He said that, maybe on a slip of the tongue. What CDF will be found, if at all, in the estimates, supplementary estimates that I have tabled. This memoranda, Mr. Speaker, has about 5 items, which the House needs to agree with in one way or the other. Mr. Speaker, the roadmap is set. And Kenya is a parliamentary democracy. So, and you know, when I say Kenya is a parliamentary democracy, there are parties that form parliamentary parties. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want Honorable Wandai and Honorable Nasir. They are doing very good work. And Honorable Kathuri, it may be when we come back in October, and the House Business Committee that you chair will give it a priority, so that we know in record at the plenary where wastage in government is happening. And that will not help the people of Kenya alone, it will even help the president in making sure that certain people are also relieved of their duties. But now, 1 year down the line, we don't have a report.
No, not a point. You know, points of order should not be confused with points of arguments. Honorable Kajwang, what is your...
I can speak on your... Come here.
Mr. Speaker, sir, protect me from my minority leader. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you see, I am sitting next to him. My minority leader is threatening me with the consequences of participating in this House pursuant to Article 117, which states that this House, there is freedom of speech in this House, and everybody will follow its conscience, and that this is a house of debate. Mr. Speaker, sir, he is talking about issues which are outside of this parliament. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is the same thing which the leader of majority, in a way in which he is trying to cast aspersions by telling us about this parliamentary democracy, telling us about some things outside the house that we do not know. Are they in order, Mr. Speaker, that these people should intimidate us when we know where to vote and where we know where the country is going, where we know our people?
Order members, order now, order. Honor members, the chair will obviously not be able to rule on whether the leader of minority party is in order or not, arising from a complaint that whose genesis is maybe some whisper between the Honorable T.J. Kajwang and himself. Now, if he whispered something to you, because you said you are sitting very close to him, which indeed I can see, but I'm unlikely to know that both yourself and the leader of minority party have been smiling at one another. How am I likely to interpret that that is a threat? I can only imagine that you have been exchanging matters to do with the great county of Homa Bay. Honorable Boko Milemba.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the communication and the fact that we have had to have this special convening of the House. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, the matter that we shall be looking at, especially the matter which one honorable member raised, is the issue of the tax. And because that's a matter that really concerns Kenyans, it was my plea that I beg your direction that when it comes to voting of that particular matter, because it's raising a question of the integrity of the House, the independence of the House, the strength of the House moving forward, that you allow that when that voting be done, it's done publicly so that the Kenyans can know who will be for the Kenyans and who will be not for the Kenyans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honourable members, my communication was very clear about how that is to happen. I'm unlikely to change merely because there is excessive foot thumping. That is not the way we make decisions here. So we will go by the communication, which indeed is amplifying what is in the standing orders. And there should be no difficulties. Honorable Nasir, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With due respect, because our committees that we chair have been mentioned, and with due respect, Mr. Speaker, when we're told that 1 year down the line, we as a committee have only been constituted for hardly about 6 months. And the level of corruption that has been there in these state corporations have been so intricate and complex, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad that my brothers, Honorable Duale and the Chair of Budget are in agreement that people need to fry and people need to burn to set an example that corruption is not allowed. So when we bring these reports, Mr. Speaker, to this House, we are hoping the same enthusiasm so that we have zero levels of corruption in this country, we have zero tolerance on public misuse, and then eventually we'll have zero taxation on fuel. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, now there's nothing really to this. You know, I can see Honorable Wandai wants to say something. You know, it is not. There's no debate. Honorable members, there is no debate. The matter will come on Thursday. You will then debate at that time. But for now, there is nothing to. There's nothing to debate. There's even nothing out of order. No. It is not just for people to speak for the sake of speaking. This is not the way it is done. So Honorable Wandai, not even raise your finger the way you are doing. It is not going to help because there's nothing before the House. The memorandum has been committed. The supplementary estimates have also been committed. So they really have nothing. We better move to the next order. Next order.
Order number 8, the Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Bills, Senate Bill number 4 of 2017, second reading.
Leader of Majority.
Speaker, because you have committed the memoranda to the Finance Committee, and you have also committed the bulky supplementary appropriation estimates to the Budget Committee, in order to give our members time to go and read and internalize that, I will ask that we defer order number 8, number 9, 10, and 11, Mr. Speaker. I've asked you to defer order number 8, 9, and 10, and 11, Speaker.
Very well, order members, order members, order now, order members, order members.
Where?
Order members, order members.
Member.
Honor members, I'm sure many of you may not have heard what the Leader of Majority has said. He has asked for the deferment of the businesses appearing as orders number 8, 9, 10, and 11, so that to enable members enough opportunity to go and look at the memorandum as well as participate tomorrow effectively in the business before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Therefore, that means, honorable members, there is no business. The hour, honorable members, the hour being 34 minutes past 3 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 20th of September at 9:30 a.m. You want to say something?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With due respect, because our committees that we chair have been mentioned, and with due respect, Mr. Speaker,